Welcome back to more Dream Drop Distance. In the last video, we finished Dream Drop Distance, actually, and this is going to be the first of the 4 bonus videos that I have in mind. If there's going to be another one, okay, there'll be 5, whatever. But I only have 4 in mind. So first off, we're just going to go through these pictures, you know? Because that's a good picture. I like that one. We already played Birth by Sleep. Obviously, I've got the Let's Play of it on my channel. You can go check it out if you want to. But I'm not gonna reread this. Or not reread this. I'm not gonna read it. I've already played through the game. There's no necessary reason we should read this. I just like the pictures, so I'm gonna show you the pictures. Ventus in his chamber. This is just cool. I also like that one, although my favorite still has to be the one with Aqua, with Sora, and Riku. Obviously that one, classic. Meeting Donald and Goofy after you beat the first boss in Traverse Town. Or it's technically second, but I believe that's on the second visit as well. That one Maleficence with Riku and Traverse Town. It's a nice picture. Then we get that famous hug where she brings him back from a Heartless. And they're running. And that's it for that one. So we're just gonna get into Days now. We'll go over Chain of Memories and Kingdom Hearts 2's pictures in the next video. But I can't play Days, obviously. I have no way to record a DS game. So I can't. So I will read Days and we'll do Coda in the next video. When Roxas first became part of the organization, he spent his days on missions collecting hearts and befriending another member named Axel. However, when Axel was sent to Castle Oblivion on a special mission, Roxas teamed up with the organization's new 14th member, a girl named Xion. Slowly the two warmed to each other. Once Axel returned from his mission, Roxas and Xion developed a routine of ending each busy day by having an ice cream atop the Twilight Town clock tower. There they talked about work, friendship, their memories, and the meaning of a heart. Nice little picture of them talking. One day Xion was ordered to dispatch an imposter, Riku, who had donned the organization's robes to protect Sora. But Xion was overpowered and told her Keyblade was a sham. After failing a second mission, she slipped into a coma. Nice little picture of Riku standing tall over her at Beast Castle, no less. When Xion finally awoke, Roxas' daily routine resumed a kind of normalcy, but something in his friend had changed. Slowly, Xion began to question her own existence. I like that picture because that reminds me a lot of the opening in Dream Drop Distance. On day 255, Xion visited Castle Oblivion and discovered what she was. Roxas waited for Xion at the clock tower, but she never came. The next day, he learned she had deserted the organization. Roxas tracked her down and tried to convince her to return, but Xion drew her Keyblade threateningly. It was only once Axel appeared that he and Roxas were able to bring her back by force. After learning some of the truth about Xion, Roxas found his own existence thrown into question. He lost faith in Axel and the organization who had kept so much hidden from him. He decided to run away. Okay, that's just funny. Why would you choose that picture? That just looks weird. Meanwhile, Xion had tracked down a girl named Naminé and decided to return her share of Sora's memories to their owner. Axel hunted her down and made a double-edged promise. Keep running, I'll always be there to bring you back. After barely managing to keep that promise, Axel collapsed and Xemnas, the organization leader, took Xion away. Aimlessly, Roxas found himself wandering toward the clock tower. There, Xion revealed herself to be not a her at all, but a faceless puppet that the organization had created as a cage for Sora's memories. The last of those memories were inside Roxas, Sora's nobody, and she would have to take them away from him to become a complete Sora replica. The part where his famous line is, "Who I'll have ice cream with now." The two fought and Xion got her wish. She was defeated as the memories that made her up returned to Sora. She ceased to exist and vanished from the minds of all who knew her. Confused and angry, Roxas decided to challenge Xemnas and the organization, free the hearts they had collected and destroy Kingdom Hearts, but Roxas was not strong enough to win, and if he fell there... Oh, and if he fell here, Sora would never awaken, so Riku confronted him. Nice little picture of Riku with the Oblivion Keyblade. In his mind, Riku heard the last wish of a girl whose name he could no longer remember. To stop Roxas, he nearly failed and had to allow the darkness in his heart to take over before he was able to subdue Roxas. The boy named Roxas woke up in his room in Twilight Town after having another strange dream. Oh, okay. Excited, he ran off to meet his friends at the usual spot. Only 7 days of summer vacation left. Him running to the usual spot, I guess. And that is essentially the story of Days. Story of Days is much better than Coded. I wouldn't say it's the best story in the series. I still feel it's inferior to Kingdom Hearts 2, Birth by Sleep, Chain of Memories. The only one it comes close to beating is is Dream Drop Distance. It's like those two are on the edge, like story-wise. But they definitely trounce Coded, because Coded's pretty much fodder. It's just... It is the definition of a side plot point in Kingdom Hearts. As far as the gameplay is concerned, it's just straight garbage. It's trash. There's just no fun to be had. Like, at all. Honestly, the game could not be any worse to play. It's so repetitive, boring, and there's just nothing going on for it. Honestly, I mean, you revisit some worlds. I mean, you go to Beast Castle, Agrabah, Olympus Coliseum, I believe, Neverland, Halloween Town. Those are the only worlds I remember. There's more, I just don't remember them. Aside from the world that never was, and Twilight Town, obviously. But even then, you never really roam the world that never was. You're just in your castle. And then there's the final boss fight with Riku. That also happens in the world that never was. Otherwise, everything else takes place in all those worlds. Like the action parts, the missions, they're just... Like, the only thing I truly, like, got into, as far as Days is concerned, was, like, the Keyblade system. Where you had, like, all those... Where you had, that cube, and then each Keyblade was, like, had, like, 2 gears or whatever, and you put the gears into it. And you had, like, the square to fill up or whatever to boost your Keyblade and health and your stats and all that. I enjoyed that. But as far as the combat went, it was just too tedious and boring, repetitive. There was nothing going on for it. This was literally the toughest game to get through. You play it once and you're good. Just watch the movie afterwards. And aside from that, all the boss fights were trash. Essentially. I mean, there's a couple that I'll give a pass. I'll give Xion a pass. I'll give Riku a pass. Those were both fine boss fights. I enjoyed both of them, actually. But every other boss fight in that game was straight garbage. From my memory. Like, I remember there being a Saïx boss fight, and that one wasn't bad. I mean, you have Ruler of the Skies, which is literally the worst boss fight in the entire game. And in the entire series, in my opinion. There's Leechgrave, which looks really cool, but it's one of the most stupid boss fights. It's just so unnecessarily challenging. I don't know, there's one at Beast Castle where it's like on the bridge and it's like trying to push you back against the door. I vaguely remember that one. That was trash. Oh, there was Wonderland. Wonderland was in the game too. I don't remember the Wonderland boss fight. I think it was just like the Nocturne stuff, but you were in a maze and there was like 3 of them. I think that was the boss. If not, I don't know. I honestly don't know. guess it was okay. But it wasn't memorable. I don't remember. I don't even remember if that is the boss fight of that world. I just don't know. The boss fights in Days were not good. There was the special boss too. The secret boss. It was like Dusk or something. It was like a flying heartless snow. It was like a flying heartless dragon kind of thing you fought in Twilight Town. Like, I think you had to go through a boss rush, the boss rush mission. You have to do it like fast enough or whatever. Or you have to do something in order to encounter it at Twilight Town. And it's right in front of the clock tower. But I don't remember it. I don't think I fought it, but I remember hearing about it, watching videos on it. It's just the boss fights in that game aren't good. Like, even the ones that I consider good aren't good. And the ones I consider good are like Saïx, Xion, and Riku. Like, I guess they're good, but they're only good enough. Like, they're not great, they're not special. But they're good enough. And honestly, I feel like Days and Dream Drop Distance have this same kind of thing. Where the final boss fight, a lot of people like to consider the final boss fight, aren't the final boss fight. Like in Days, Xion. A lot of people want to consider Xion the final boss fight. She's not. It's Riku. Riku is the final boss of 358 over 2 days. Just like in Dream Drop Distance. A lot of people want to consider young Xehanort the final boss. But he's not. The Armored Nightmare Ventus is the final boss of Dream Drop Distance. And the one thing I see common in both of those is that Xion and young Xehanort are tougher challenges than Riku and Armored Ventus Nightmare. But just because they aren't as tough doesn't mean they can't be considered the final boss, because they are the final bosses. They really are. It's just like a lot of people consider Terranort and Aqua's final episode the final boss of Birth by Sleep. But I see him as a special boss just because on the PSP you have to beat the game on a certain difficulty in order to even unlock it. If you play the game on beginner mode like some people might, like I did. I played Birth by Sleep on beginner mode when I first played that game. So I didn't unlock it. And when I found out there was a secret episode, final episode, I think it was called the secret episode on the PSP. But then they changed it to the final episode because there is an actual secret episode in the final mix version. Then I had to replay and beat the game on Proud mode, because I think you had to beat it on Proud, where in the PlayStation 4 version, I think you just have to beat it on Standard. And above in order to unlock it. So, as far as I'm concerned, Birth by Sleep has like 3 final bosses. And it's Terranort, Lingering Well vs. Terranort, Ventus vs. Vanitas, and Aqua vs. Ventus Vanitas. I believe it's that one. I don't think it's the Xigbar one. I think you fight Xigbar and then you fight Ventus Vanitas. But either way, I do like Xion, Riku, and the Saïx boss fight. Every other boss fight in that game is absolute garbage trash and I don't care for. And the only memorable ones other than that are the ones I mentioned, the 3 I mentioned, and the 4th secret boss fight or whatever. Because I remember, like I said, Leechgrave, annoyingly tough. Pearl of the Skies, annoyingly boring, drawn out, terrible garbage boss fight. And that Wheel of Death on that bridge in Beast Castle. Like I said, I can't remember the Wonderland one. I can't remember the Agrabah one. And I can't remember Olympus Coliseum's one, if they even had it. I just can't remember. Days isn't a good game when it comes to gameplay. As far as playability and playing through a game, 358 over 2 days is the worst Kingdom Hearts game to play. That being said, its story is pretty solid, so at least it has a redeeming factor. But overall, Days is the worst game in the series to play. Emphasis on play. It's just not fun to play. It's fun to watch the story. And there are certain elements of the game I do like. Like I do like some of the bosses. I like the Keyblade gear upgrade mechanic that they've got. I don't like the gameplay's repetitiveness, boringness, considering it's a DS game. With Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom Hearts 2, its repetitiveness didn't knock it because it was still flashy. You still had other stuff you could do, but with Days you can't. And that can get a little bit boring to watch. Not just watch, just to play and do. Days, it's a bad game to play, but it's a fun game to watch, if that makes sense. Like, not watch someone play the gameplay parts, but just watch the cutscenes. That's it. The lore for Days is good, but the gameplay is bad. That's where I'm getting. And I think with that, we've spent enough time on Days. That is how I feel about Days. Since I'm not gonna play it, I'm just gonna get my thoughts out right here, right now, and that's it. It's a terrible game to play. Fun story, great story, nice lore added to the story, but it's just a bad game. So I hope you have a great day. Remember, only you can be the best you can possibly be. If you like the video, like, comment, feel it, be super special, awesome. Subscribe if you haven't, that'd really me out. And ta-ta for now.